You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious
about business.
Serious about business.
We're here at the Montego Bay Convention Center in St. James for the 12th Annual Inter-American Network on Government Procurement Conference. This is a meeting ground for more than 32 member countries who are here to discuss everything on public procurement. Of course, Jamaica leads the region in the area of public procurement with its eGov procurement system. And here with me, I have Paulo Magina. He is head of the procurement unit at the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
All right, so we had a presentation from you earlier today about public procurement and the work of the OECD. Tell us a little bit more about that.
The OECD has been working in public procurement for many years now. So we are developing policy guidance for our member countries, but also for other countries outside of the OECD. And in Latin America, we are working with many countries like Chile, Peru, Mexico, and Colombia. And we try to provide good guidance and help countries improving their procurement systems.
And how would you say the area of public procurement is in the region in terms of its advancement?
I think there are challenges and there are opportunities, and the region is becoming more and more aware of the recent trends and modern trends in public procurement. And our idea in coming to this conference, it's the second time that I'm attending this conference. It's a very important conference for the region. And our idea, as I said, is to come up and bring good practices from OECD countries, which are considered to be the most developed countries in the world. So we want to share the practices that we have and that we are aware of.
Okay, and in your presentation, you also spoke about a particular toolkit. Tell us a little bit about that.
Exactly. We are developing this toolkit, as we call it, toolbox, because we produced the OECD recommendation on public procurement last year. It was adopted by the OECD Council, which is the highest form of endorsement that we have. So this OECD recommendation is bringing 12 principles that countries should follow in terms of implementing good public procurement systems. In order to help countries implementing these procurement systems, we came up with this toolbox that we published and is now online on our website that you can visit and you can use it. And we are bringing more and more country cases, examples, checklists, good practices that the countries should follow, or at least they should try to understand what other countries are also doing in order for them to improve the procurement systems. I believe it's a good thing that this kind of toolbox are important to share with countries, yes.
Okay, and how long did it take to develop this toolbox?
Oh, it's a project that we started developing beginning of the year, beginning of 2016, collecting cases and going through our reviews and reports, trying to come up with the practices. And well, it went live on October. We had some IT development as well. The search search engine is really strong and powerful. And it took us like 6 months of full work on that.
And what's the reception been like in terms of persons, downloading and using it?
Well, it's ramping up. It's a starting process. It's starting now. But we have some feedback from countries, and countries are now willing to share more case studies with us. So we have, for instance, Australia. We have Chile, we have other countries outside of the OECD willing to share their practices with us. And the idea is to use this toolbox as a platform, bringing links from other countries. I will put the INGP link, the practices you have in the region as well in the toolbox. So I believe it will ramp up, I guess.
Okay, and where do you see public procurement for the region in the future?
Well, procurement, for me, it's the most important single activity a government can conduct in order to impact the economy. And I believe this says everything about public procurement. We are talking in OECD countries of 12% of GDP, 1/3 of government expenditures, and 2/3 are spent at subnational level. So if you think about it, the size of public procurement, the impact that procurement has to provide good services and works to the citizens, we are talking about a huge amount of power that procurement officials hold in their hands. Maybe they are not aware of it. So our idea is to become more and more strategic. So procurement is becoming more and more strategic, meaning that procurement is now being used to achieve other policy objectives. We are talking about sustainability, we are talking about innovation, support to SMEs, social objectives. So there is a lot to consider when you do public procurement. Procurement is also aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. They were published last year, and we have a specific role to improve public administrations. So if you think about this is the vision that we pursue for the future of public procurement, to become more and more strategic, to incorporate the work related to infrastructure. So a lot of things are being happening in the public procurement world these days, and we are proud to be part of it.
The first issue, which people have been mentioning time and time again over the course of this conference, why do we care so much about public contracting? Well, one of the reasons is it's huge amounts of public money, right? I think the OECD has estimated that it's $9.5 trillion every year in public procurement alone. And someone told me, and again, I'm not sure what kind of truth or lie this is, but someone told me that if you take 9.5 trillion $1 bills and pile them up, that's enough to go to the moon and back. It's true. So a few of us around the world back in 2012, people working at the World Bank, at the OECD, at different institutions, Transparency International, different governments like the Government of Colombia, Philippines, got together and started to think, okay, we've got some issues in public contracting. Are there any kind of is there a new partnership we can form? Are there new ideas that we can bring to the table to try to address these problems? Because as we all know, right from the get-go, there can be problems in public contracting. In English, at least, I know this says that it was only supposed to be a small change in the technical specifications. So I hope that translates in Spanish. But basically the idea that it's all about how we can look at this whole process right from the very beginning and really work together to get it right. And I really want to emphasize partnership, collaboration together. That really underpins everything I'm going to be talking about. So just to kind of be clear from the beginning, what do I mean when I talk about open contracting? It's about basically bringing together concepts of open data, concepts of public disclosure, and engagement with citizen, business, and government, bringing the stakeholders together around that information to facilitate analysis, monitoring, and feedback and fixes. So how can we work together to better use information to get to the goals that we're trying to accomplish with public contracting? So it's exactly about bringing together these different stakeholder groups. And of course, there's only 3 little guys up on the screen, but we know in real life there's dozens of actors involved. When we think about the government, we're thinking about auditors, we're thinking about project managers, we're thinking about ministers and policymakers, we're thinking about controllers. There's so many different actors who are interested in the success of public contracting. Likewise, when we talk about civil society, we can think about the technologists, the social enterprises, the journalists, the transparency organizations, the public integrity monitoring organizations. And then when we think about business, we have our contractors, we have our potential contractors, our potential bidders, their associations, the professional associations, all of these different groups who are very invested in the success of the public contracting system.
Tell us about the work of your unit, affectionately known as PAPU.
At PAPU, yes. It's the Procurement and Asset Policy Unit, and we are responsible for the entire public procurement reform agenda, looking at legislative reform, the institutionalization of the procurement profession, so we do training, capacity building for both the public and the private sector. We do compliance audits. We represent the government at international organizations and in negotiations on government procurement matters. And we're also the contact point for all our stakeholders, including the private sector, if there are any issues regarding procurement matters that they need clarified.
So the INGP conference that's happening right now, tell us about how that plays into the role of PAPU.
Excellent. The Inter-American Network on Government Procurement, it's going 12 years now, and Jamaica has been part of it for quite a number of years. And through this integration and knowledge sharing experience, Jamaica has learned from all of the countries that have participated. The network is made up of 32 countries, Latin American and Caribbean countries. And so on an annual basis, we have this conference and we look at the issues that affect us. So it is not just focused on a single country and its procurement reform agenda, but also what is happening across the region. And so you take the lessons from what is happening in more advanced countries with their procurement reform systems, with those that are even behind what is happening in the Caribbean. And so you will find that we're at different stages in our procurement initiatives. However, we are able to learn from each other, build on lessons learned, and take strong recommendations and in the reform process. But fundamental to this network is the access to resources. So the partnerships that we have in the network and funding, the access to funding through the IDB, the World Bank, and you have other institutions that have come on board more recently, including the Caribbean Development Bank. They offer financial support. They also offer technical support. So we are able to build on those relationships, get access to some resources which will actually propel our reform agenda. Jamaica has been a beneficiary of this. Our electronic government procurement reform was actually funded through the IDB and funding that we got through the Korean government. So these are some of the areas that you can look at. Jamaica has also benefited through the World Bank's contribution to looking at our handbook and setting up standard bidding documents. The reform that is going on now, the IDB is very much involved along with the EU. And it's when we make these representations and networks like this, and in this particular situation, when we come to the network and we are able to put on the table what we're doing and the support that is needed, we get the grants to do it and we deliver.